Well, even though you haven't got a chance to do a lot of stand up during these times, you actually got a chance to do some voiceover work. And one of your gigs that you had during your voiceover work is playing Walter Mercado for the Cartoon Network show
Yeah.
Victor and Valentino. So, how was your experience doing that?
Yeah, that was really fun. I mean, that one, luckily, I got the chance to record it before the whole pandemic started, but it came out during the pandemic. So it was really, I mean, that was like really cool to be able to do. I mean, first of all, because I remember growing up when I moved to the US, like listening to Walter Mercado, like
Yeah.
in Univision, like he was like a staple thing. So like, and the cool thing too is also like I got it through a friend who used to work there, and he's like, "Hey, do you do impressions of Walter Mercado?" And I was like, "Or do you know who?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I can do one, And it
Yeah.
luckily kind of worked with what they were working for, so it was really cool to be able to do that, and to especially because also that's when the whole his documentary happened
Oh,
too
yeah.
that came out last year, and it kind of like it was at the kind of like at the same time when that happened, so it was
Hmm.
a couple of coincidences, but that was really cool to be able to do that.
I'm actually a big on horoscopes. I'm a big believer on horoscopes. And I would say maybe like
Hmm.
growing up when I was very young, my mom's from El Salvador. So she always had Walter Mercado on. And like whenever he was,
Hmm.
giving out his horoscopes, and
Yeah.
she always made sure like I can't speak Spanish. So she would translate to me what he would say for like
Cool.
my horoscope, which is Sagittarius.
Nice.
But yeah, I would say
Yeah.
I'm
No,
a
he
big
was great.
yeah, I would say I'm a big believer of horoscopes because of him.
Oh wow. Yeah. No, I. It's funny. I still read horoscopes here and there, like I do it, like because yeah. I mean, I. It's one of those things that I like because it's not. It's kind of like it's kind of like superstitious, like being
Mhm.
superstitious, to me, like where I'm superstitious in some things,
Yeah,
but it's not a thing that like, oh, like it's life or death, or like I don't take it, like it's not like religion or something like
yeah,
that to
yeah,
me, but I still kind of like, well, you know what, it doesn't hurt,
yeah.
why not, like, yeah.
I'll say this, I mean, especially if you're having, like, a bad day, or you're going through a rough time and you just so happen to come across your horoscope,
Yeah.
it's usually something positive to tell you to it's a it's like a good thing to bright up your day. So what got you interested in doing voiceover work?
Well, it's funny, that was the first thing that I did, that I got. That was like my first credit when I moved to LA, because obviously I moved to LA to do first. I moved to LA to do improv comedy, but then I started doing stand up.
Mhm.
So I was doing stand up, and but I didn't have any credits or anything like that. Not even a manager or agent or anything like that. And then a friend of mine recommended me to his friend who was a casting director at Fox, and he and then I went in like, and I auditioned for a voiceover role, and it was for the movie Rio,
Okay.
that came out a while back, but it was like, but that was, I mean, I got it without like, I mean, again, I never thought I was gonna do voiceover. That was never a thing that I like. My
Yeah.
intention was to do comedy.
So are there any cartoon character or anime characters that you would be wanting to do voiceover work for?
Um, I mean, I love Modern Family. I mean, not Modern Family. Sorry, Family Guy. I don't know why I said that. I think I
Okay.
confused. But like, so I think out of the ones that are like current right now that are, Family Guy would be like, I would love to be a part of, or be a voice in that. But I think to me, hopefully the horoscope says that I can book a role in a regular role in an animation that's new, that becomes as famous as Family Guy, and then that'd be good. Then I'm set, because that'd be the great. That'd be like winning the lotto, because
Oh, yeah.
getting like becoming a regular in an animation show, that's like, I mean, you are
Oh,
like
yeah.
pretty much set.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's funny about Family Guy. I mean, I don't know if they're like pushing at least over 20 years or 20 seasons or something around there. But I know they've been out for a while. But if, I mean, I was a fan with them from the very first episode when it came to Fox.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I think, I want to say it survived only like 2, 3 seasons. And then it just stopped suddenly showing up on Fox.
Yeah.
but they would do reruns of it on Cartoon Network for kind of for a couple of years, and it slowly built up, I guess, a new following in which they just reopened and started it, the Family Guy
Yeah.
episodes, and now it's like obviously popular.
Yeah, no, it became, yeah, that's true. It became, because I do remember, I never remember watching it from the beginning, but I do remember that it wasn't like popular, and then
Yeah.
it got canceled, but then it came back. And but yeah, I love their style of like the way that they write, and that's another one that I would love to write for. Even not to be, even if I wasn't part of it, I would love to write for them, because their humor is it's kind of like very similar to how I think in terms of writing. Like,
Uh-huh.
I love when they do flashbacks, that like
Oh, yeah.
that every flashback that they do, to me, I love that tool to be able to use it, especially with animation. It's so easy to do it.
Yeah.
And I love that they really go for stuff. They really go, they're not afraid to, they're always on the line of like of comedy, like of almost crossing that line, but they don't go back, and it's like, but it's always still funny. So I
Yeah.
love that too.
Yeah. It's funny about adult cartoons, and I don't think people really realize it, but they can really teach you something growing up. I mean, talking about Family Guy, which is associated with, The Simpsons, I would say I learned a lot
Yeah.
and plenty of people can say the same thing. They learned a lot from watching The Simpsons.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember watching The Simpsons growing up, and then even in Venezuela when it was like in the Spanish voiceover, which was obviously when I came here was different. I was like, oh, that's Homer sounds weird, like. And but I even remember my first cartoons that I remember watching that I liked, that now that you mentioned, is the Flintstones.
Okay.
The Flintstones, like, I remember because my grandma used to love watching them, so I would watch them all the time too. And like, and yeah, there were, in a way, you could, I mean, even though they were cartoons, they were still kind of like, now that I think about it, or I mean, it was like like a sitcom,
Oh,
like a
yeah.
fam, had a
Yeah.
family, had a
Yeah.
job, it wasn't like,
Mhm.
so that was, to me, that was like the first one that I remember watching and enjoying the animation aspects of it.
So who are some comics that you kind of grew up watching that inspired you to becoming a comedian yourself?
Yeah, I mean, so growing up, I always, well, in Venezuela, I would say there was a, before when I was little, I would used to watch this show called Radio Rochela, which was like the
Okay.
SNL of
Yeah.
Venezuela. And yeah, and there was this guy, this comic who's, very famous in Venezuela, Emilio Lovera. So I remember he was like, I remember watching him and really like, oh man, he's really funny. And then when I moved to the US, Seinfeld, like that was the first kind of like show that,
Okay.
like, sitcom that I watch and that my whole family watch. I love the universal aspect of what he does. Of, even though my comedy is not as observational as his, but I
Yeah.
just love the fact that he talks about that anything that he can, that anybody can relate to,
Mhm.
and so he was one, and then Chappelle was another one growing up that I was like, obviously just because of he's just like a Roger Federer,
Yeah.
in terms of like how easy and effortless. I
Yeah.
was like, wow, like that's what you aspire to be.
Yeah. One character that a lot of people don't like on Seinfeld that I love the guy because he's so hilarious, and I'll go to, watch some YouTube clips just of stuff of him when his famous lines on Seinfeld is Newman. I love Newman, man.
Oh, Newman is a yeah, yeah, Newman. It's amazing how, like, yeah, I mean, to me that's also, yeah, one of my favorite characters. I mean, it's amazing how he took that role and just made it so
Oh,
bigger,
yeah.
because he was like, Newman was, even in the first time that they mentioned, they don't even show him, and then but when the first time that he came up, actually, I think I YouTube his first appearance on the show, and like, it was such a, like, he just had such a, personality and
Yeah.
point of view of that character, and he's like, and yeah, he's amazing. It's like being the bad guy. It's such a great, because I think the key of that is like, it's such a real villain.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like what a villain would do if he didn't have any powers or any money. You know, it's like he just like, yeah, he's like like a Lex Luthor with no power and no
Yeah.
money. But he still acts like Lex Luthor.
Oh man, yeah, I love Newman. So
Yeah.
as you talk about it, I'm just thinking of all the funny stuff that he's.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the fact when he gets caught for the police and he's like, "What took you so long?" You know? Or when he's interviewing Jerry and like he's sweating and
Oh
then
yeah.
Jerry's like, "What, you want this?"